Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone, and welcome. Thank you for being here. I wanted to, first of all, I want to say that I missed you and that the break, 4th of July, Wesak, whatever, whenever there is a break, and then the class cannot be held on a normal schedule, I feel that there's a part of me that's missing because you're my family and you are the landmark, familiar landmark through which I'm navigating this shift. And as such, I want to talk today and follow up on the beginning of a conversation we had the last time, particularly in the US, as mass shootings are happening now every 3 days. There's another mass shooting yesterday. I even forget where because it's so often you can't even keep up. 4 people dead, 11 people wounded. It's just one, I think somewhere in Philadelphia. No, so in Pennsylvania. Anyway, it just happens so often that you develop you have to distance yourself from the fear that it creates, because most of these people who are shot, like the doctor, there was another one 3 days ago where this patient who had back surgery walked into made an appointment with the doctor, came with the AK-4 machine gun and shot, killed 4 people and bullet a whole bunch of other people. It is clear 2 things. The availability of guns is a problem in this country, always has been. And second, the ease with which you can actually get them. And second, there's a lot of people with mental illness, exacerbated by the kind of self-righteous attitude that people have to feel that they have the right to exert their so-called justice on others, whatever that may be. And you and I cannot change this because it's something that's systemic, that has been happening for years. A lot of it vented by politicians who weaponize these people by giving them the right key buzzword, because a lot of these shooters, not all of them, I shouldn't say all of them, but a lot of them were white shooters that were attacking other Jewish people or minority people or kids and so on and so forth as a way to, for whatever their deranged reason may be. But part of the reason, for example, when it happened in Buffalo, it was this fear of that replacement theory, the false belief that the conspiracy theorists are running, and a lot of the people in the conspiracy theory camp and also on network television are spreading this lie that they're going to be replaced, and therefore they should decimate the people who are not white, not like them. Anyway, so I don't want to get political. Why I'm mentioning all of this is just that I want to mention the fact that this is creating fear, because a lot of these people who got shot were doing nothing more than going about their daily life. The kids in Texas were just going to class. They were in school. The people in Buffalo, they were just in a shop, shopping. They're simple little thing that you take for granted, and you think you're going to go to the grocery store. You don't know what's going to happen and what's going to trigger somebody. So if you're living with that kind of worry and that kind of mentality, you're going to be in alert all the time, and it is extremely unhealthy for you. And that kind of alertness and fear are constantly watching over your shoulders for some danger to happen, because it's not an open war. An open war is much better when you know the enemy and you know there are sirens that are telling you bombs are coming. You can begin to get out of the way. You can begin to flee. But when it's so enmeshed with your daily living, it's a very hard thing to kind of separate yourself from. What this does is that incrementally and very slowly, without you knowing it, it begins to encroach into your consciousness and it's eroding your sense of peace. Last class we had done right before the break, we talked about how, as a kind of takeaway from Wesak, how Lord Melchizedek was saying, we somehow internally, because of the internal war, our own suppress and repress rage and anger, and the stuff that are untaming our subconscious mind, that show up at moments when we become volatile and explosive, when we feel like someone has done some wrong to us, and we begin to explode like a dynamite. And we see and hear ourselves perform and say all these things that are completely uncharacteristic of us. These are moments when they happen that are learning and teaching moment, but when you think about them in hindsight, they are not our proudest moments. And I'm saying this because one of the things over the years, and now I'm saying this because I'm going through the same thing, because I'm being tested as well. There are things that are happening in my life where I'm doubting myself, and I'm asking myself, is this the right reaction? Should I, because what was before COVID, before March of 20, before we went on lockdown in this country, March of 2020, the type of ways I used to react to things, all of it is being under re-examination for me right now, because I'm asking myself how I'm reacting to things. Is this the right reaction? Is it too under the radar, or should I be more demonstrative of what I'm really feeling inside, or should I try to hold my reaction, which is what I was doing before? Hold your reaction, analyze things very carefully, and respond from an ascended manner. Don't respond on the fly with your emotion flying out and your rage and your anger volcanically scorching everything. Just calm down, don't respond immediately. And I'm beginning to ask myself, and I'm doubting, is this the right way to go about what I'm doing? Or should I be much more reactive or less reactive? Because there are more triggers. There are more and more triggers. Because in the US, the school shooting is just one thing. You have women's right, reproductive right, it's going to be taken away. There are all these things that are happening that could cause somebody that wants a new earth, that wants an equitable environment, that wants everybody to be happy and to have the same equal rights. It could cause many of us to feel a certain way. So instead of being enraged and trying to attack, I am trying to calm myself down, and I'm taking myself to a different place. And I'm trying to find the peace that's in me. And it's not an easy task, because, as I said, there is enough trigger that if you allow yourself to go and really fully experience them, it would generate a whole bunch of stuff inside of you to cause you to perform emotionally. And I suppose that performance is what the agitation or the agitator, the Nephilims and so on and so forth, that's what they are looking for. But I'm choosing to react differently. But although I am holding my reaction, I'm analyzing them deeply within, I'm processing them deeply within, I am still, there's a part of me that's still in doubt, that's questioning, is this the right thing for me to do? Am I not being too much of a pacifist? Should I be more involved on the other side? what should I be doing to allow myself to be more effective? Am I doing this effectively? So I'm saying this because I want you to understand the whole process that I'm going through, because I don't have the clarity and the precision on my path that I had prior to March 2020. I don't have it anymore. At the moment, I feel very clear and I know exactly what's going on. And at other moment, I have days where the clarity is there, and at other moment, it's not there. It's gone. I have a lot of doubt, a lot of things that are running in my head and my feelings and emotions. I'm trying to figure out, am I doing this right, or is this being done wrong, or should I be doing something else? And I suppose that's the whole point of moving to this landscape of quicksand, is to learn how to shift your center of gravity from one thing to another. And it's a question of doing this much faster, because the landscape is changing very rapidly. I don't know what's going to happen a month from now. And the fact that Saturn went in retrograde after Mercury retrograde ended on the 3rd, on the 4th, Saturn went retrograde. And Saturn will be in this position until December. So we have a long stretch of dealing with an energy that will try to restructure and bring forward, basically try to remove all stuck energies. And if used correctly, meaning if you are yielding and allowing what needs to be let go, to surrender it and to release it, what's going to happen is that it will catapult you and actually create heaven for you. But if you're resisting, the chaos that it will create will unroot your old structure and create all kind of like destructive thing in your environment. And so, and it typically affects government, big institutions, et cetera, but it also affects you because you're a human being. For me as a Capricorn, this is my ruling planet. I'm typically very comfortable with Saturn influence, Saturnian influences, because it's my ruling planet. I'm okay with it. And I'm doing some deep, analysis to try to figure out where I am and where I'm going and what I want to do and how I want to contribute toward my movement into the new earth. I have to tell you that in my dreams, this movement and this path going forward are showing up as me on roads. And the funny thing about it, it's either I see myself on Park Avenue, but it doesn't look like Park Avenue. Okay? It's a Park Avenue that looks like it's Central Park. There's no car, there are no lanes, there are no nothing, but there's a swath of land in the middle of this densely populated area, big, long rectangle. And I know that the people who own that slot are the luckiest people in the world. Or the other day, just yesterday, I was having a dream that I was trying to find Kosciuszko, which is a street in Brooklyn. And there were lots of turns, and where I knew the street to be and my destination, there were lots of buildings that were blocking the way. So let's say the street is here, I'm looking on a Google map, and I know the map is telling me you have to move through, and then there's a church in between. And I have to move somehow through the church to get to the other side. And there's a lot of obstacles like this in my dream that is emblematic of what I'm talking about. But there's lots of insecurities, there's lots of doubts, there are lots of, the same clarity I had before is not there. Whereas when I had the dream with the Park Avenue thing, the swath of land was completely open. It was a different dream. I was in a different state. I had perfect clarity. I knew exactly what it meant. Whereas for this patch 2 dream, the dream before that, it was 6th Avenue. And I'm trying to walk on 6th Avenue. And then all of a sudden, I think I'm on 6th Avenue. The next thing you know, it veers off into something else. And all of a sudden, I'm going on this hilly road. And I'm like, wait a minute, this is not 6th Avenue. and I have to go back, and I'm like, oh, there is the street. It kind of like, there's this funny corner. I have to go this way. And it's emblematic of the emotional state that I'm in, trying to make sure that I find that I remain on the path toward the new earth. I reside in peace. I have to remain in clarity. One of the things that I taught you, and that I'm going to go over again, it's the morphogenic listening. Okay? This is the foundation and the key to everything for me. If done correctly, the clarity that you're missing when you're in doubt will become extremely visible to you. Although at times the chaos around you, let's say the fear of mass shooting that are happening closer and closer to us. I mean, I had a friend who works at the airport. This is about a month and a half ago, that got stabbed 4 times in the train. He's coming from the airport to go home. He's on the train and he got stabbed because somebody stole his iPhone. And this is somebody I know. I don't know him intimately, but this is a friend from the gym. And when I heard this, I was in total shock. Now, granted, he worked strange hours. It was night when he was, returning from his shift and all that. But it doesn't excuse the fact that this used to be a normal kind of thing. And again, the encroachment and the proximity of this lack of safety is getting closer and closer and closer. And therefore, the concern, am I in the right place? Is there a place in the world where you can be safe? Is there such a thing? Should I pray more? Are my prayers going to protect me? Those are the fears that are running in my head. Are my prayers going to protect me? Is this enough? Should I be doing something else? Should I add something to it? Those are the things that are running in, and part of it also are being pushed and exaggerated by the archons as a way to agitate, okay, to create confusion. But the state of confusion, being confused, is part of the transition from one reality into another higher reality. You're going to be confused. You're going to be in doubt. That's the way Bardo and transitioning from one state into another. That's exactly the way it happens. So all of this old karmic stuff in the past, the things that used to be triggering for us, will come up again, and they will begin to demonstrate to you whether you had mastered them or not. And more to the point, you're going to have to figure out a way to respond to them in an ascended way. And the way you do this is that you learn how to exist in your heart space. You learn how to connect to your heart center. And the way we do this is that, it took me a while to figure out that I was saying this, for those of you who've been with me for a long time, for over 10 years, I've been saying this over my meditation: let your head drop in the middle of your chest. That's my key word to talk about morphogenic listening. What do I mean by that? The people at the heart math they talk about what they call coherence, because it turns out that the tissue of your heart are made of the same neuron net tissues that exist in your brain. And that when you allow the neuron net in your head that measure, calculate, and try to seek danger, etc., very linear, very kind of like, cause and effect, linear. When you allow that to sink into your heart, allowing your heart space to become in harmony with the neuron net in your brain, it creates a third condition that they call coherence. And this is the entry point into what I call the morphogenic listening state. In Carlos Castaneda, in the teachings of Don Juan, they call this the second attention. So when you do this, and we're going to demonstrate it, in the meditation we're going to be doing, when you do this immediately, the harmonizing and the sensation that comes from the heart, the upper heart, are completely different than the calculation, because your cerebral cortex, your frontal lobe, are trying to keep you to make you survive. Whereas the heart neuron net is doing something else. What it is doing is that it's understanding the vast morphogenic field, the vast torsion field, that it creates an immense torsion field, 8 feet wide when the coherence occurs. But more importantly, it is in there are mirror neuron that communicates with everyone else of the same species or even different species or nature. It communicates with a vast quantum field. And when that communication occurs, what it does is that it gives you a different way of perceiving the world. Instead of the linear calculate, danger, survival, run, fight, flight, flee, it creates a different relationship to the world. So it's to exist in that space and to allow your heart to begin to lead, that it begin to inform you in a very different way, where you are and how to find peace. And where you're off, where things are not working, it begins to demonstrate it to you. And it shows you the correction. So I spend, if you were to do this, and really the way to do this is for 10 minutes per day. If you were to do this 10 minutes per day, the afterglow remains for several hours. And that afterglow will take you into a place of being in perpetual hope, where the fear and the doubts will not enter. And when you're in that perpetual hope, the vast, immense field will bring to you matching ease and flow and frequency, and you will walk through the valley of shadow and death and feel no evil, and nothing will touch you. So it's the idea of trying to figure out a way to navigate this craziness that we're in, because at this point, I'm not looking at the mass shooting anymore because it's just too much. It's sensory overload. I don't want to know the detail about the last one that happened. It seems every 2 or 3 days, there's another one that will occur. I just don't want to know. Because if I were to know every detail of everything else, I would be so out of alignment and in such fear that I would not be able to find rest and to be at peace. Since I don't have a TV and consume news very differently, I go on YouTube and I see the major headlines because I subscribe to a few channels, and whatever it is that I feel curious about, I begin to watch. And if I don't like what I'm hearing, I click it off. I'm done. I don't have a TV channel that's open up behind me while I'm doing other things and cleaning. I only go to the computer and open it to watch it when I am seeking information. Thus, for those of you who are leaving the TV in the background when you're doing something else, these things are subconsciously being penetrated. Because if there's a mass shooting at 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, if you're on CNN or any other news channel, they will repeat it over and over again. Or Fox, for that matter, they will repeat the same thing, the same video, the same comments over. By the time you hear this 6 and 7 times in a row, it goes into your subconscious mind and it damages you. It fractures you. So for me, because I don't do this, I'm consuming it in a very different way. I'm able to control things much easier. So let's go back over the morphogenic listening. The key to everything that I do, and I've said this to you before, many of you have heard me say this, the only true power that I have is that I have morphogenic listening power ability, and I can listen extremely well. I remember sharing with you, this is several months back, maybe 2 or 3 months back, that Kuan Yin, who's the Bodhisattva of compassion and mercy, that her true ability and power was the fact that she was, before she attained enlightenment, she had a horrible experience with her family. She was the daughter of the emperor, and there were 3 daughters, and the emperor wanted to marry all of them well. He didn't have a son, including Kuan Yin, and Kuan Yin wanted to have a monastic life. She wanted to be a nun. And he refused. He made her a domestic in the palace to mistreat her so that she could repent. She did not. He then had her exiled in a nunnery and asked the reverend of the nunnery to mistreat her and leave her in the cold, in the snow and everything else. She still didn't repent. And she was still praying, and she was still stoically asking the Buddha and trying to find a path toward enlightenment. When this became so, he fell, the emperor fell because his will was, he thought he was, the dragon emperor, who is basically a descendant of the gods. Everybody has to obey him. When he felt that this disobedience was beyond measure, he sent a group of assassins to kill Kuan Yin, and Kuan Yin escaped. Spirit whisked her away into a place called Fragrant Island, where she eventually attained enlightenment. And the way she did this is that she began to learn how to listen to all of the fractures, her inner brokenness, her inner pain, her despair, and all the pain and the suffering that she endured. Instead of running away and trying to block them and put a happy face on the wound and the damage that was done, she went deep inside and acknowledged that these things were effed up. And no human being should have to suffer this way. She listened and went deep inside of them to understand the root causes. And when you're fractured, you actually veer off. You react in a way that allows you to survive, but it's not the normal way for you to be in relationship to the issue that you have created this offshoot from. So then in the process of doing this, she realized what was the correct reaction, or what should have had happened. And then she began to send to herself deep compassion to her own self. And aside from the compassion, she began to accept herself with all of the brokenness. She began to accept herself incomplete, not perfect. She began to accept herself as a work in progress. She began to say to herself, I am not perfect, I made mistake, and it's okay for me to be broken. It's okay, and I'm accepting myself. And more than accepting myself, I am now going to give myself love. I'm going to love myself with my brokenness. I'm going to love myself with my despair. I'm going to love myself with all of the pain and the suffering that I have inside of me. And the moment she did this, enlightenment begin to set in. Because God doesn't want you to be perfect and have the perfect life and the perfect reaction and the perfect, there is no such thing. Even to the process I've just described now, or me having all these doubts, if you can go into the doubts and begin to sit with them. And again, like Kuan Yin, listen to yourself. Listen as if, and there's a line I use in the meditation, listen as if all the 50 trillion cells in your body, as you listen to you, had ears. And as you are that attentive to your own self, what lesson does these broken pieces of yourself are trying to teach you? And more to the point, can you accept yourself? And love yourself? Broken, in despair, shattered, traumatized. And if you can do this and truly send love to yourself, from the ashes, the phoenix will rise. And from there, your true body of light will begin to reveal itself. Kuan Yin never set out to be the Bodhisattva, because her name means she who hears the cry of the world. Or in certain texts, it's translated she who hears the sounds of the world, but it's the cry of the world. But the point being, she never set out to do this. What she set out to do is to listen to her own crying, to her own brokenness, and to heal and to accept and to love herself even broken, even incomplete, even shattered, even traumatized. Even with the hump on her back and the long nose and the wart, even her as Quasimodo. And if you can do this, you will have illuminated the darkness that's within you. This is the true power and the step number one into the morphogenic listening. The second part is that because she did this and it was so profound and so deep for her, that suddenly when she began to arise in her light body, she began now to hear the cry and the suffering of everyone else around her. It was not something that she sought out initially. She wanted to heal herself. Now I have to share something else with you, because many of you have been working on this with me for a while. But when you do the morphogenic listening and you go within, after the initial acknowledgement of your broken parts, of your traumatized part, of your despair, of your pain, and all the things that are inside of you that are shattered and broken apart and separated from your true identity as a celestial being. Once you have acknowledged and given yourself enough self-love, what's going to happen is succeeding connection of the alignment with the morphogenic field and going into morphogenic listening state. You are not going to just find within yourself darkness or things that needs to be corrected. You're going to have moments where you're going to find ecstatic, expensive, and illuminating light. You're going to have experiences where, what I'm trying to say is that many of us have the negative and bad habits that when we do this exercise, we go in looking for darkness. The morphogenic listening exercise is not about going in and looking for darkness. It's not about going a flashlight and looking for where's the darkness. It's not about this. It's about going into the morphogenic field and let the field reveal to you what it wants to reveal. The best way I can describe this is that if you're standing on top of a mountain or in a country somewhere, and there's a fog all around you, and you sense a presence coming, and the fog is so dense you don't know what the presence is. Instead of you projecting, this is somebody that's going to come and jump me and kill me, this is negative, this is, just allow yourself to be neutral to what the field wants to bring you, and let the fog dissipate and surprise you and reveal to you what it wants to reveal to you. And more to the point about not projecting negativity into the revelation that exists in that morphogenic field. Even the negative or the seed of a positive. Because once you accept them and love them and bring acceptance into them, it turns that they are a trampoline that can bring you into great heights. So for me, that exercise becomes the key. If you can find a way to allow yourself to go into that space where you begin to allow whatever exists in there. There are times there are things that I'm repressing and suppressing that I didn't know that show up, and I welcome them equally as I welcome the new information that are coming in. Everything that I'm teaching you, including all the essential mechanics that I'm teaching you, all came to me because of this ability to listen to myself. Everything. You all have ears. With a little practice, you are capable of doing what I'm doing, or even better. So it's to try to get yourself to a state where you can begin to basically sink into that space where the coherence occurs first, and then you begin to sense, as if, the best way I can describe it, your eyes are closed. You know how when your eyes are closed and somebody comes behind you, and they may be very quiet, but you can feel that someone is behind you? This is what it feels like when there's a presence or energy system that's in the morphogenic field. You can feel things moving, swirling. You can feel frequency, vibration all around you, 360. And in the process of you sensing all of these things, you allow them, the fog to dissipate, and for them to begin to reveal to you whatever their nature really is. Maybe in this instance, it's something that was suppressed, something that there was a trauma that you didn't know that was there, or it could be a piece of knowing and enlightenment, or an expansion of one of your chakras, like your heart, your capacity, for example, to have true compassion for yourself, and to know what that true compassion is, and acceptance for who you are, or to truly love yourself, and to truly accept yourself for who you are, incomplete, broken as you are, rather than see yourself as something that still has an end veil around you, your neck, or that you're incomplete and you're not worthy of enlightenment of the light of God. But to accept yourself the way you are right now as being a child of God, capable of receiving enlightenment, of receiving complete love, and of receiving complete acceptance from God. Because if you cannot believe it and you cannot accept it, outside forces cannot force it in you. This is your movie. This is your reality. You have to accept it within yourself. And the moment you do this, it will shift everything for you. Any questions, any comments?
Here I'm trying to digest everything that you said, which is so on point for me. It appears that the morphogenic listening is more important now than the more recent guidance on finding those inner conflicts, the stem or the origin of those inner conflicts, because that just may never end, but rather the morphogenic listening and the ability to accept that your imperfections don't bar you from God's love, ought to fix us. I don't know if that sounds easy to do, maybe the way I've just said it, but
no, preach, girl, preach. Keep going. Go the right path. Keep going. Keep going. I'm listening.
But how do you get to that point of accepting that your imperfections don't bar you from whatever the goal is that you call it, transcendence or enlightenment or peace of inner place where the outer conflicts don't trigger you anymore because of the basic fear, it seems to me, yes, survival on a physical level, but the basic fear is that you are not acceptable to God because you're imperfect.
There you go. Ding, ding, ding. There you go. That's it. Exactly it. That's exactly it. That's it. Bingo. That's exactly it.
Mm-hmm. Well, having said that, you have a magic sauce for.
Well, the magic sauce is for you to keep repeating and going back to that space. It's just not one go around. The magic sauce is for you to keep going back to that space and bring it forth and to converse with it. Because whatever is hidden gets bigger. Whatever you suppress and repress, you push down, it will get bigger and bigger. And the moment you bring it to light and you begin to deal with it and you begin to acknowledge that exists within me. As I was saying before in the class we did right before, right after Resac, a lot of the atrocities and crazy stuff that people are doing around the world, those things, there's a part of us that's capable of doing this. And when you begin to acknowledge that those parts exist in you, and you begin to have conversation with yourself and realizing, but there is a misguidance that causes people to act out on these things. And when you begin to understand that misguidance, and that you could be triggered as easily as they have, there are so many people that we know who are now misguided about so many things. There's such disinformation going around the world that they are so misguided about so many things. And if you're standing in your tower of self-righteousness and thinking that everybody should be the way you are, then you're not accepting that you also are playing a part in this. that there's a part of you that could also have been influenced. And so when you go and sit with yourself and realizing that one may be influenced by some conversation about gun control, that one may be influenced by something about something else, something about, reproductive rights, and something about, and all these trigger things. And there's a part of me that could also be brainwashed into this.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? There's a part of me that's capable of also being brainwashed into this. Therefore, let me love and accept, let me be happy that I have this clarity, and let me now accept the fact that that part exists in me, and also by the same token, pray for these other people and accept them in their own incompleteness.
Mm. In my work since the last class 2 weeks ago, of finding issues that have contributed or continue to contribute that have been hidden, I discovered something from ancient lifetime, not unlike, I think, what you have expressed from your past lifetime of the grave disappointment that you felt you were to your people. Mm-hmm. And this helped me to understand that weakness in myself of feeling that I'm a disappointment. And so it's not just issues in this life.
Right.
We're also being influenced by past lives, maybe further back than we'd even imagine possible. Now, that is a big deal now to have to, so you have to be willing to accept you may have been, I don't know, a mass murderer and still be acceptable to God.
Absolutely.
That's a huge leap.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. And this is where Kuan Yin had to go deep within herself. What was her connection to her dad in the past life that caused the father to want to kill her? And the crazy thing about her and why she became Kuan Yin and the Bodhisattva of compassion, her father became deathly ill after she achieved enlightenment. And no one, although the physician in the imperial court could not cure him, there was a monk, a traveling monk, that went to see the emperor. They brought the monk to the emperor, who was a healer, and the monk said, I cannot cure you. The only way you can be cured is that you're going to need the eyes and the hands, not again, the arm of a bodhisattva. And so the emperor said, well, I might as well be dead. No one is going to do this. And then the monk said, I know of a bodhisattva that is on Fragrance Island. I will inquire, because with those two items, I can create a cure for you. And sure enough, Kuan Yin took out her eye and gave her arm so that her dad will be cured. Mm. And when the father became, the preparation was done, the potion was done, he drank it, and the moment he drank it, he miraculously recovered. When he recovered, he thanked the monk profusely, was bowing down to him, and the monk said, do not bow down to me, don't do this to me. I simply executed the formula. The person who cured you is the Bodhisattva. You need to go to Fragrant Island and thank the Bodhisattva. And when he traveled and arrived in Fragrant Island and found that it was her daughter, Kuan Yin, now missing an eye and an arm, he fell to the ground asking her for forgiveness. And she, in turn, as well, began to be tremendously touched because it was full circle around. Because the karma that she had owed the father, the debt was paid. And at that moment, she became enlightened. And Gautama Buddha, seeing the major sacrifice, because what do I mean? Because you have to understand the story on multiple levels. Gautama Buddha, seeing this, gave her the ability to not only see in one direction, but to have three heads and see everywhere. So she got extra sight because of the sacrifice. And the missing arm was changed and transformed by Gautama Buddha into her having 1,000 arms, so that she could respond to 1,000 places in one instant, so that she could help more people. What do I mean by the sacrifice? What do I mean by the taking a part of herself? And I know this so well. How many times are my students asking me for help where I'm going to use money as an example, but it's sometimes it's energy. I will, let's say they're asking me for help. I have $9. I will give them $8 or $7 on what I have and say, here, feed yourself. And I will remain with what, basically the $9 is not even enough for me to complete what I need to complete for myself. But I will literally take from me to give to you so that you can feel better. And many of us as healers are doing this. But I have to, again, I've noticed that in myself very recently, and I had to ask myself questions about my own, and there are fears of survival right now. There are all kinds of things going around that's causing us to be worried because everything is going up, the prices of everything is like, it's crazy. And you know, so I had to ask myself some deep question about that kind of instinct that I have, which is, if you have a plate of food and somebody is hungry, you split it in half. You give them some of your food. So it's a very complex thing, but I want to illustrate that the part of the story of Kuan Yin to make you understand. And I'm not asking you to cut your arm off and give it to somebody.
Oh, thank you.
That's not what I'm saying. I'm using this as a figurative thing to explain sometimes the sacrifice that we do for others, right? And so one should be very aware. You still have to have what my teacher, Dr. Stone, called, you have to be spiritually selfish and make sure that you are also, that in the process of giving, you're not sinking down. One of the things as a lifeguard that I learned as well when I was being trained to become a lifeguard is that if you approach an active victim that's drowning without having a buoy or an extension to let them grab, they will grab you and both of you will drown. So you have to know there's a certain measure or distance that needs, and what I learned in my lifeguard class is that you jump in the water with a buoy and you hand them the buoy. If they're calm, you can approach them directly and say, you talk to them and then you grab them, you turn them around, there's a way to grab them and you can swim with them and bring them back. But if it's an active victim, you can't do it. If you don't have a buoy, you go with a towel, you go with anything, a pole, you go with something and you hand it to them and then you tow them back. You don't let them touch you. So there is a distance that needs to be created where you want to also maintain yourself while giving to someone else. What is a lifeguard? A rescuer. What are we doing as light workers? We're rescuing. So indeed, the ability to give to others and doing a sacrifice for them is there. But Kuan Yin benefited greatly from that story because she ended up having an extended her vision end up being something else, and her ability to reach her arms, that one of which she lost, she got rewarded by having 1,000 others where she, and there are statues of her you will see where she has all these arms that are like a giant fan around her. That's what it's representing. And sometimes she has 3 heads. It's the representation of her being able to see. The root of the story is because of the sacrifice she made.
It may be then appropriate to call upon Kuan Yin to assist us in finding that place of self-love, since she was able to do so, pardon me, in spite of all of her failings and weaknesses that she perceived that kept her from perfection. Sorry.
Absolutely, Janice. Absolutely. 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 And Kuan Yin will do that gladly. And that acceptance of self, again, as I said, there's going to be brokenness, there's going to be all kinds of things. Because right now it's easy to judge all these people and say, that one is doing this to me, that one's gaslighting me, that one is doing that, and not realizing that everything is a mirror. It exists within you too.
Well, even considering the descent from source, we've gone through all of those dimensions, that's got to have an impression deeply embedded in our souls of conflict or weaknesses or devastating feelings of unworthiness. So it's a big issue, I think.
And to your point about the past lives is to actually realize, again, if not in this lifetime, at some point, if you understand the complexity of the subconscious mind, of the collective unconscious, you will know that these archetypes, which are forces of nature, are capable of all kinds, the gamut of good and evil exists in the archetypes. And they exist, therefore, inside of you. And you have to get to a point where you love all of them. And you accept all of them. And accept, not to say you're going to act on all of them. My destroyer and I have an understanding, and at some point I took her for a walk for 3 years. I took her out once and she never, she didn't want to go back. It took a whole bunch of things and negotiation for her to go. It took a while, okay? The memory of the destruction that I sowed, I'm gonna have to live with, and I've accepted it, and I forgive myself for them, okay? But I also now have a different conversation with her, because the destroyer is necessary when you're in danger. So when I'm in danger and I need her, she comes out, because she's a demon goddess. She's wearing a red leather tight bodysuit. The hair is pulled back with a long. I saw her with a long ponytail, and she has a whip in her hand. I saw her. I'm not joking. We negotiated. I saw her. She's fierce. There was such beauty in her. It's like when she was looking at me, she looked like she could eat me alive and she could love me equally at the same time. She could protect me and she could destroy me with just cracking the whip. And when I saw this and experienced this and negotiated with her, I became at peace. So many people right now, because of everything that's happening in the world, and it's so divisive, it's, it's very, there's a bifurcation of either this way or that way. People are not understanding the gamut of human nature. That when you're standing on one side of the seesaw and you think you're better and superior, you don't understand the human nature. You should actually have compassion and acceptance for the people who are still struggling. It doesn't mean they're going to remain where they are, but at the moment they are disempowered and they're struggling. And you are capable also of being also brainwashed into and bamboozled and gaslit into some other belief and reacting in a completely crazy way as well.
Mhm.
And if you're capable of understanding those two things and accepting yourself and loving yourself, giving the range that all of these archetypes are, then you begin now to forgive yourself and you begin to see, okay, if I didn't do this in this lifetime, but in the past life, I was them. I did exactly that and I did worse. And therefore, I need to love myself and accept myself for making those mistakes. As I said to you, when I took, her name is Evelina, my demon goddess. She gave me a name. When I took Evelina out, and for 3 years, I literally, everything I touched, I destroyed. With glee, she would cackle. I mean, I was a completely different person.
Mm.
I didn't know it, but I was channeling her for 3 years straight. My friend thought I was so entertaining because she's, if you're gonna have a fight for her, you will never win. She will cut you to pieces. I mean, sharp, fast, quick, witty, just like you're not gonna win. And when I came back into myself, Pierre returned back after 3 years, and I began to realize what I had done. I had to accept the mistakes that were made. It was part of the lesson, ask in my spirit to the people that I heard for forgiveness, but not condemn myself for the mistake, not judge myself for the mistake that were made, but accept myself and love myself nonetheless, because now I know better. It served the purpose. I hope this helps.
Very much. And although it's not helpful to say this, at the same time, you know what thought comes to my mind? This is all an illusion anyway. So.
That also is correct. But in the process of this illusion, we have to learn to give and receive from each other in an ascended way.
Yeah.
That's the point of the illusion, is to learn and to give and receive from each other in a ascended way, and to develop those higher emotion back.
Mm-hmm.
And self-acceptance and self-love, even though we are broken and we're incomplete and we're capable of, you know, expressing rage and destruction and all that. And in my instance, and the experience I recall, I'm not going to go into the detail, but the experience that happened where I actually began to awake and realize this is not me. It's because of something I did to somebody, to a few people. And then one of them turned around and looked at me and said, "Oh my God, you're evil." And then it was a moment of lucidity. Although there was a part of me that was, Evelina was laughing, and then there's a part of me that snapped and said, "This is not you, Pierre.
Mm.
That behavior is evil. This is not you. What is happening to you?" And this is when I begin to find my way back.
So it's all part of the giver-receiver syndrome of finding equal measure of value to give credit to and receive in response from those that maybe aren't behaving in a way that you would condone.
Yes, and the point being is that the first instance at the moment of creation, the greatest and the highest of all emotion, is divine love. But that divine love got split into an endless desire to give and an endless desire to receive. Mm-hmm. And it is the dynamic and the flow between the two of them where the receiver at some point kept on receiving and receiving from the giver, could not give back, that developed the shame and the undeservedness. Thus, the fall happens soon after that. So in the process of relearning, we have to learn, because you cannot have love and divine love if giving and receiving are not there. But the giving and the receiving has to be freely given and freely received. You cannot impose your will and your gift on someone else that doesn't want to receive it. And if you give to somebody, they have the right to give back to you, to remove their own shame and their own undeservedness. So when we're seeing people acting out or doing all kind of crazy stuff because they've been so brainwashed into or radicalized into a belief, and I'm seeing a lot of people that I love very dearly, I still love them. I see a lot of people that are light workers that were in podiums with me, channeling with me, and I'm seeing them, the way they're derailing into this crazy, not so world of conspiracy theory and all kinds of stuff. I still love them. I accept them because I am capable as well within myself of being lost. It could have been me. Only by the grace of God, there I go and I'm safe now. It could have been me that's spinning around in this lie.
Thank you, Pierre. This has been so helpful, and I'm sorry to take so much time.
No, I love it because it's helping me clarify, and I'm sure everyone else is benefiting from this. You're not taking time. It's part of the class, and so it's to accept this about yourself and accept this about and then realize that wherever they are right now, pray for them. And because they're powerful beings, they will figure it out. They will realize at some point that they've been bamboozled and they've been radicalized. And then they'll find their way back. But it's their own journey. It's not up to you to try to give them the enlightenment that you have, to try to force it upon them and to fight with them.
Meanwhile, you might want to separate yourself from them.
Absolutely, which is what I've done. I've distanced myself from a few people.
Yes.
Absolutely. Because the way they are now, they are trying to force their reality onto me. Again, giving incorrectly.
Right. Very good.
So as a lifeguard, I create a distance. I go with a pole, I create a distance. I create space. Okay, temporarily. Because they are agitated, they're not calm. I hope this is making sense.
More than you could know, more than I could express. Thank you.
You're welcome, Janice. You're welcome. Anybody else? Any other questions or comments? Again, whatever state the world is in, friends, family members, and the way they are going crazy, etc., you cannot change them. What you need to do is realize that they're all mirrors and there exists inside of you something you're somehow co-creating. There's a part of you, particularly if it's irking you and if it's triggering you. There is some aspect of your experience of that particular situation, external situation, that is within your psyche. And you need to reconcile with it, which is that find where it is. It could be in a past life, it could be somewhere else. Find where it is. And the moment you find it is to find the love and the acceptance and realize this is a broken part of me that I didn't know exists. And instead of trying to, this is disgusting, I want to take this out, I don't want this because I want to be all light, is to accept the fact that it's broken. And I'm not perfect. But I am still loving to myself and I'm going to accept myself broken and all. And this is the lesson of primordial cultures. This is the lesson of reading. If you really read the work of Carl Gustav Jung and the work of the archetype that he did, this is the lesson of all the archetypes. Because all the archetypes are polarized in some ways. There was a higher aspect, there's a lower aspect. There's an enlightenment, higher octave and lower octave. And these archetypes, when you understand them in both scope, realizing in both range, giving the right circumstances and the right environment, whatever you're witnessing on somebody else, it could be you. And if you can accept the fact that both parts exist in you and still love yourself with that understanding, then you can begin to also love and accept somebody else. Because the destroyer I was talking about is capable of killing easily. And that part exists in me. I channeled it for 3 years. She doesn't have a problem emotionally battering and doing all kinds of, and again, as I said, I'm not proud of those 3 years, but I had to learn to accept that I cannot go back and erase the past. And I have to still love myself, even though I've done these things. Although I was influenced by the archetype, but it still doesn't excuse, it was completely unascended behavior. And instead of trying to, oh my God, forgive myself for the experiences, for what I put people through. I am grateful for the fact it didn't continue any longer. And I'm extremely grateful now to the relationship that I have now with my destroyer, because she stands ready. At a moment's notice, she will come in and defend. I'm going to share with you one experience that I had with her, where she came in very quickly. I was in the mystery schools and around 14th Street. It's around the time in 14th Street in Irving Place, where there was a methadone clinic that was people around Union Square. And these drug addicts would hang out all the time. And then, they go into this hole where they lean forward and they don't move for an hour or 2 hours. And then they start talking and they begin to run. They do all kinds of crazy stuff. So we had an open door at the temple on the first floor. And then one day, one of them wandered inside the facility or temple. And we were all inside. And all of the elders began to say, run toward him. And he fell to the ground, didn't want to get up. So are you okay? Blah, 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 blah. And then they're like, let's do a healing for him. Let's do this, let's do. Yeah. Evelina walked in literally 3, 4, 5 seconds. The man was outside. Walked in and took shots. What the hell are you doing here? Get up. I'm calling the police right now. Just like 1, 2, 3. The man was out. And everybody was looking at me like, at that moment, that kind of behavior of let's send light and energy to this man and all that, it's not going to help. So the archetypes can help you depending on where you stand. And when I need her, she comes in. And then she goes back, because that's the understanding I have now with her. That she will not come to the surface unless I'm in danger or great need of her. And when she's done doing her work, she needs to go back and allow I, the chooser, to be in charge. Now, there's a lot of people that are out there that are shooting people or doing this, that are channeling their destroyer. And again, they've been brainwashed, and their destroyer is going out there and doing all kinds of chaos. But the negative aspect of it. Any questions, any comments?
Yeah,
Yes.
I just want to say that there were I've had experiences like that from my past lives that I just accepted, and I found over the years that also evolved in a wisdom. Like I found different parts to the story that over the years just kind of helped me. I guess that's the part where the wounds need to be elevated also, right? To be truly healed. So I found like as I would think about it occasionally and just sit with it, other aspects of the story were showing up for me.
Mm.
You know, to give you an example, I had a past life where I took the prana seed from the planet and then caused a lot of people to die. And then I just like years later, what I realized that the people who were there, they did the same thing to the people who were originally there. So basically, it was a genocide. And I had a conversation with that prana seed, with the female, and this was, it turned into the whole conversation. So there was still lesson in it, but the lesson was bigger and expanded.
Mm.
It just got much bigger, but I just found myself, this is what I didn't know what I was doing at that time. I was actually doing the listening, because I kept going back and just listen, just being neutral and listen, without judging myself, and the story expanded and the story evolved.
Mm.
So that was interesting as well. And it took years. It wasn't like immediate.
Mm.
I mean, it took some years before that other part showed up. I would say 3-4 years,
Mhm.
but it happened. So that's also maybe something to look for.
Mm. Thank you, Ursula. Thank you for sharing. Let's take a 5-minute break and then we'll do the closing meditation. 5 minutes.
Take a very deep and slow breath. And as you inhale and exhale deeply and slowly, allow the universal life force that permeates everything to enter into our lives. Keep breathing deeply and slowly. And let your soul and your awareness drop in the middle of your chest. Please forgive me. I love you. And I let go. Please forgive me. I love you. And I let go. Please forgive me. I love you. And I let go. Let your heart and your mind sync with each other. Keep breathing deeply and slowly. And let your being enter into a coherence and realize that you can perceive 360 degrees. Keep breathing deeply and slowly as you acclimate yourself to this different way of knowing, not only sensing all of the energies, feelings, and sensations that may exist all around you, but also understand the inner landscape, emotions, sensations, feelings, fragments that may exist within you. Keep breathing deeply and slowly. And without judgment or preconceived notion of good or bad feelings. Listen. Listen as if the more than 50 trillion cells in your body had ears. Pay attention to any emerging awareness, knowing, expansion that may show up for you. Keep breathing deeply and slowly. Listen with your entire soul. And become aware of any message, insights, breakthroughs that may show up for you. Become aware of this morphogenic field of knowing. Become aware of all of the brokenness, despairs, and traumas that may exist in you. Keep breathing deeply and slowly. And go deep into these sensations and perceptions. And accept the fact that you are not perfect. Just keep breathing deeply and slowly. And let that awareness and that acceptance and forgiveness for all of your self-forgiveness for all of your broken parts sink in. Keep breathing deeply and slowly. We ask Lady Kuan Yin the Bodhisattva of mercy and compassion, to bless us with her mercy and allow us to accept all imperfections and our brokenness. I forgive myself. I love myself unconditionally. I accept myself and all my broken parts as individual mosaic of a complex tapestry that compose my celestial and divine identity. I am now administering mercy to myself. May the love that passed all understanding pour down upon my imperfect parts, heal and repair the fractures, and bring me back into the alignment that I need. With my acceptance of myself. With my self-forgiveness and self-love. I can now become more accepting and loving. To others who are still navigating the external world and the forest of errors. I understand how someone could fall into these external traps. I pray that they find their way into wisdom, love, and forgiveness. Thank you for the blessings. I accept the gifts and I receive with gratitude. Thank you for the blessings. I accept the gifts and I receive with gratitude. Thank you for the blessings. I accept the gifts and I receive with gratitude. Take a very deep and slow breath. And whenever you feel ready, you can open your eyes.
Thank you, Pierre. That has given me a wonderful start to a process that I will continue, and I think that would be very revealing.
And hopefully healing for you.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Anybody else? Any last minute comments or questions that you may have?
Probably many, but in our time space, I think it best not to. Always have questions.
Of course. All right. I want to thank you all for listening to me. If you're listening to me on Patreon and supporting us, I want to thank you all for your support. On YouTube, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share the information with the rest of the world so that it will improve the algorithm, and also it will help other people find the same freedom and benefit that you're deriving from this. I want to thank you all, and I'll speak to you next week. Thank you. Good night, everyone.
Good night. Good night, everyone.